the question which most people had was that how did the transition take place from, being a bureaucrat, a career diplomat, to becoming a politician, joining Mr. Modi's cabinet?
Mhm.
How did you make that transition? What tools did you employ?
Well, I didn't make the transition. It happened. I mean, uh, it happened because, as you know, I come from a bureaucratic family. Crossed my mind. I don't think it had crossed the mind of anybody else in my circle. And then, lo and behold, what happened in May of 2019 happened. Now, once I entered, I must say, in all honesty, I myself was very unsure. I mean, I had watched politicians all my life. You know, one of the things you get to do in the Foreign Service, by the way, is you actually, perhaps much more than other services, you see politicians up close because you see them abroad. You're kind of working with them closely. You're counseling them. So it's one thing to watch, but to actually join politics, to become a cabinet member, to stand for Rajya Sabha, because when I was selected, I was not even a member of parliament. So each of this kind of happened one by one. I slid into it, sometimes without knowing it. You learnt by watching others. That's something, we say sometimes you go to any foreign environment, you kind of you pick up by. So for me, this wasn't a foreign environment, but it was a different environment. So, you looked at others, more senior people, more experienced people in the cabinet, in the party, in other parties. I mean, I even today, just watch me in parliament. I do follow a lot. I look very carefully at what people are doing, both in my own party and other parties. I think there's a lot to learn from everybody. So you get into it step by step. Sometimes you surprise yourself. There is a learning curve. I'd be honest with you out there.
When Mr. Modi picked you to be part of his cabinet in such an important portfolio, everybody thought that, you'd be like a technocrat or somebody, like, you bring domain expertise and you'll kind of restrict your karma into that region.
Mm-hmm.
But then one saw, you evolved. You became like any BJP karyakarta, like any BJP worker. You're part of the party. You take the party line. You go to all states, not just Gujarat. You're going to Karnataka. You go to Tamil Nadu. I've seen you going everywhere. And speaking about the party, it's become part of your the political part has also become part of your making now.
For me, it's interesting. That's how it seems to you. But look, this government, this cabinet is very much a team cabinet. Okay. So you don't do your own thing out here. I really reflected on what is the meaning of actually joining a political party. It's not a decision I took lightly. And as someone who's studied and analyzed politics all their life, it was something for me of great importance. So I joined because I genuinely believe today that this is a party which captures the sentiments and interests and aspirations of India the best.
Is there any difference in how Dr. Jaishankar, the diplomat, thought and operated, and how Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, politician, BJP worker, thinks and operates?
See, in a way, it's like different lives, Now, you got to understand the challenge that it was for me personally, because I'm from a bureaucratic family. My father was a bureaucrat. I have an elder brother who was a bureaucrat. My grandfather was a bureaucrat, and we have aunts and not aunts but uncles who were there. So our world, if I can put it to you this way, was very, very bureaucratic. Our goals, our dreams were bureaucratic.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, if you had asked me, if you and I had met, which we had, let us say in 2010, and say, okay, Jaishankar, what's your dream? I said, I want to become foreign secretary. That's the dream of any foreign service officer. In our house, it was also particularly, it was something we put
No,
a great...
you never said that.
No,
I
because
want to put that
you never asked me.
It was in 1993, I think, that I first met you.
You
I never
no, hang on.
asked you.
You never asked me that bluntly, but had you asked me that, look,
Yeah.
it's a reasonable dream to have. I mean, after all, when you, if you start a business or you do something, you want to be the best in it, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
So, fine. I wanted to be the best foreign service officer. And to my mind, the definition of the best that you could do was to end up as a foreign secretary. In our household, there was also, I would say, I won't call it pressure, but we were all very, very conscious of the fact that my father, who was a bureaucrat, had become a secretary, but he was removed from his secretaryship. He became, at that time, probably the youngest secretary in the Janta government in 1979.
For viewers and listeners who don't know, Dr. Jaishankar's father was Dr. K. Subramaniam, who played a key role in formulating India's strategic doctrine. Sorry for interrupting you.
So in 1980, he was Secretary Defence Production. In 1980, when Indira Gandhi was re-elected, he was the first secretary that she removed. And, he was the most knowledgeable person, everybody would say, on defense. He was also a very upright person. Maybe that caused a problem, I don't know. But the fact was, as a person, he saw his own bureaucratic career in bureaucracy actually kind of stall. And after that, he never became a secretary again. He was superseded during the Rajiv Gandhi period for his, somebody junior to him became cabinet secretary. So it was something he felt. We rarely spoke about it, but it was obviously something which must have been inside him. So he was very, very proud when my elder brother became secretary. In my case, he passed away in 2011. At that time, I had got what you would call grade 1, which is like a secretary rank ambassador. I didn't become secretary. I became after he passed away. But for us, at that time, the goal, you could say, was, okay, we must become secretary. Now, as I said, I had achieved that goal.
So now let me come to, when we were talking about how you do your briefings to the Prime Minister, you do your briefings to the Cabinet. What happens when you're with parliamentary committees? There is the opposition also out there.
Parliament? Or
in Parliament. But the parliamentary committees, there are opposition members also, right? The Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Oh, okay. Consultative committee.
Consultative committee,
sure.
Right? So there are people from the opposition also in that.
Sure.
So how do you convince them about policy matters?
Well, I have only experience of my own committee because both as Foreign Secretary and as EAM I've dealt with them. The way I deal with them is we take a subject, we tell them this is the subject. Normally we take something very topical and then we would have again a presenter. Often it would be the Foreign Secretary, could be some other secretary, normally not. Then I open it and encourage everybody to have their say. And then what would happen is, in some cases, the presenter may respond, but I would, as a minister, respond to every one of the comments which are made by every one of the members. Okay. So my intent of doing that is really, one, to underline to them that we take them seriously, to not them seriously but their concerns seriously. Two, it does help in kind of carrying them along and sometimes in convincing them, though politics is politics, so sometimes whether they're convinced or not, they would not admit it.
Rahul Gandhi didn't get convinced by you. He said that, I think I don't know the exact words, but I think he said that you did not know much about foreign policy matters. You needed to learn a little more.
Well, let me put it to you more accurately. This wasn't at a parliamentary committee. In parliamentary committees, we have interacted, but usually what happens in parliamentary committee, I try to keep to myself, so I will not get into it with you either. This, I think, was something he said at some kind of public meeting somewhere. It was
That you don't know much about.
I think he, look, I cannot vouch for the exact words either, but I think it was probably in the context of China, if
China.
I remember right.
Yeah, he's not convinced about China.
Yeah,
that
but I
he
mean,
thinks
look,
that
now
you are
what,
opaque about it.
I don't know whether it's opaque or whether, there was a sort of a level of knowledge, understanding. I mean, all I can say in my defense is I have been the longest serving ambassador in China. I have been dealing with a lot of these border issues for a very, very long time. I would say, let me put it to you this way, I'm not suggesting I'm necessarily the most knowledgeable person, but I would have a fairly good self-opinion of my understanding of what is out there.
Okay.
But, if he has superior knowledge, wisdom, I'm always, as I said, for me, life is a learning process.
Superior knowledge, wisdom on China.
If he has, I'm always willing to listen.
Okay. And learn from Mr. Rahul Gandhi on China.
If you think that that's a possibility, I have never closed my mind to anything, however improbable it is.
I'm going to come to this whole thing about the sensitivity issue. Do you feel that, because many say that ban this and ban that, do you believe that that is a solution to it, banning a documentary here, banning a book there, asking a channel not to broadcast in India?
No. Look, I don't think that you are asking the right question. I'd ask you a counter question. What is it we are debating? We are not debating just a documentary or a speech that somebody gave in a European city or
New York.
a newspaper edit somewhere. We are debating actually politics which is being conducted ostensibly as media, so there is a phrase, war by other means. There is also, think of it, this is politics by another means. I mean, you'll do a hatchet job. Then you want to do a hatchet job and say, well, this is just another quest for truth which we decided after 20 years to put out at this time. So I mean, come on, you think the timing is accidental? I mean, let me tell you one thing. I don't know if election season has started in India and Delhi or not, but for sure it has started in London and New York.
Okay. So this is what it is that, there's a lot that is being said that the rise of Mr. Modi and consequently the rise of India. These two things are happening at the same time, which is not acceptable to people in these Western capitals that you're talking and certain Indian quarters too. Do you agree with that point of view?
I mean, do you doubt it?
I'm asking you.
No, look who welcomes
because Ashley Tellis, Ashley Tellis, right?
Who are cheerleaders?
Your friend.
Let me answer your question. What is happening is, just like I told you, this drip, drip, drip. How do you shape a very extremist image of India, of the government, of the BJP, of the Prime Minister? Huh? I mean, this has been going on for a decade. Okay, let's not have illusions about it. How some of this has a different variant, which is you will say something, there's an echo chamber, it'll be picked up outside. Then you say, aha, see, they're saying it outside. That must be true. Then you will say it inside. So there's a ding-dong going on. See, look, this is a globalized world. People take that politics abroad. Politics of India doesn't stop at its borders. Sometimes politics of India doesn't even originate in its borders. It comes from outside. Ideas come from outside. Agendas come from outside. Otherwise, please tell me why suddenly, there's a surge of reports and, attention and views. I mean, were some of these things not happening earlier? I mean, I gave you the example of Assam.
Yeah.
I mean, people speak about, okay, you had to make a documentary. Many things happened in Delhi in 1984. Why didn't we see a documentary on that? If that was your concern, That you felt suddenly one day, okay, I'm very humanistic and I must get justice for people who have been done wrong. So look, don't kid yourself. This is politics at play. This is politics at play by people who do not have the courage to come into the political field. They want to have the Teflon cover saying that, I'm an NGO, I'm a media organization, etc. But they are playing politics. You know that, I know that.
How does BJP react to this? Is it, or your government for that matter, is it is it a reactionary measure that you have to take? How do you counter this?
I think we will put our point of view across, and as should be rightfully done in a democracy, eventually the public will give its verdict.
Which is the electorate.
That's what
it's only by the ballot that these things. If he gets re-elected, that means that they have been proven wrong. Is that it? Is that what you're saying?
Look, I would say yes, among other things, because in a democracy, don't you trust the ballot box and the people's verdict to be the final opinion? I do. I know there are some people who believe that their view supersedes elections. So, in fact, by the way, even that, look at this term. I like you, you win election, great democracy. I don't like you, you win election, what are you? Electoral autocracy.
Yeah, I heard that term.
What a great term, right? That's reserved for people you don't like who win elections. So, this is politics, my dear.
So, if there's so much money going to be pumped in, how does India react? How does India even deal with it when you don't know that there's one enemy or this is amorphous entity?
Look, I would say I think there should be and there is a battle for narratives which goes on. There will be narratives designed to damage us. We have to put out narratives designed to expose people or designed to put our viewpoint across. I think we will. My own sense is that most people will, through their, this is a pretty informed age, that era when people had only one or two sources and they controlled thinking. I think that's gone by a long time ago.
And what about this thing that they say that almost 1,000 square kilometers has gone and the foreign minister is not facing facts, not telling us the truth in parliament?
No, look, I think they are deliberately misrepresenting the situation. I give you two very specific examples of that. You remember that ho halla which happened on a bridge? They were building a bridge in Pangong Tso.
Yeah.
When did that area actually come under Chinese control?
Yeah, I've seen that. You said that it is long back.
I'll tell you when it came. The Chinese first came there in 1958 and Chinese captured it in October 1962. Now you're going to blame Modi government in 2023 for constructing a bridge with the Chinese captured in 1962? And you don't have the honesty to say that is where it happened. Or let me give you another example. These border villages. Now there were border villages which have come up in areas which the Chinese actually, in Longju, there was a clash and it's not a secret, at that time it was hotly debated in India, in the parliament, in the media. So what happens, you do the smoke and mirrors, say, oh, there is something happening here. It's almost like 1962 never happened. It is like, we should be, let me give you a very, very, a different example. Everybody says, we should be having our troops up there, we should be building border infrastructure. Hello, why didn't you build that border infrastructure? I just look at the budget of the border infrastructure. During the Modi period, the budget has gone up 5 times. Till 2014, roughly it was 3,000, 4,000 crores was the budget. Today it is 14,000 crores. If you look at the roads which are built, you look at the bridges that are built, they have doubled or tripled. You look at the tunnels which are taking place. This government is serious about border infrastructure. Whereas we know the underlying thinking earlier was, let's leave it like that, then the Chinese can't come inside. Which meant you had no intention of contesting them when they came. So, I find it very thick that, look, I don't think, personally, I would get into a blame game. What happened in 62 happened. But if you now want to whitewash all that and say everything happened only in 2020, I have to call you out, no?
So you're fortifying the border, the boundary, India-China. So does that make China now the biggest threat to India? Are we in a state of a quasi-war-like situation, conflict-like situation?
No, look,
Where are we?
No. I first of all, I'm not using the word we are fortifying it. I think we are legitimately building our border infrastructure because they have built their border infrastructure. In my view, we should have done it 25 years ago.
Again, we are reactive, that means.
I mean,
Your words, Dr. Jaishankar.
No, not at all. Look, they are the bigger economy. I mean, what am I going to do? As a smaller economy, I'm going to go pick a fight with a bigger economy. It's not a question of reactive, it's a question of having common sense. So, secondly, please bear in mind one thing. We had an agreement that you're not supposed to bring military to the border in large numbers. So, by that logic of yours, I should be the first to break the agreement.
Why not?
No, why should I? Because it doesn't make... Look, please understand...
Why are we always the ones not breaking an agreement and it's always the other side breaking the agreement?
Smita, I think you need to sort of take a very...
non-aggressive.
Considered view of this.
Okay.
Why do we reach agreements? We reach agreements because it is in our interest to stabilize a border or a situation. Okay. It's not out of love and affection and sentiment that you do. It's cold calculation and common sense. Okay. Our agreements with China were reached in 1993-96. I'm not even getting into which government, etc. I think I try to avoid this whole debate. Okay. I don't like in foreign policy. Maybe it is because I've been myself so long in this field. I don't like to necessarily say these people were right and those people are wrong. I don't think it serves the nation well.
Okay.
But if I do find that others are playing a political game where everything is being blamed on the present dispensation and entire history is being whitewashed, I think the history has to come out. Okay. Now, on the question of breaking the agreement or not breaking the agreement, generally countries as a rule, sensible countries do not, because what do you need most in international... If you have a reputation as a country which breaks agreement, what do you think is the worth of your agreement?
That is China. Where have they kept the agreement with any country?
Hello.
Or Pakistan for that matter.
From 1993, 1996
okay, not a
to
single
2020.
bullet.
No, forget bullet. From 93, 96 till 2020, was that agreement observed or not? So how can you say, the agreement is not worth a piece of paper and nothing, all agreements must be
They
broken?
took Aksai Chin.
1962.
62.
They took Aksai Chin between 1958 and 1962.
Okay.
So, if you didn't need agreements, why did you sign them? I mean, you went in 1988. Rajiv Gandhi went to Beijing in 1988.
88, correct.
Okay.
December.
You signed agreements in 93, 96. I don't think signing those agreements was wrong. I disagree with you. And this is not a political point I'm making.
Okay.
I think those agreements were signed because at that time we needed to stabilize the border. And they did stabilize the border. Please also note that. So this suggestion of yours that people sign and compulsorily break the next day, that's not true. Now,
why can we not come to an agreement on where is the boundary, how many rounds of talks, and it's non-conclusive? Because
when people are, their claims, when any other country's claims are not reasonable, you will not come to agreement. I mean, you and I can come to an agreement. If I make claims on you which are not reasonable, but you will concede it because 25 rounds have happened. You have to look at, what is being discussed as well, no?
Right.
So,
okay.
So look, if I were to sum up the China thing, I mean, please do not, buy this whole, I would say, again, I use this word, this narrative that somewhere government is on the defensive, somewhere we are being accommodative. I mean, I ask people, if we were being accommodative, who sent the Indian army to the LAC? Rahul Gandhi didn't send them. Narendra Modi sent them. Okay? We have today the largest peacetime deployment in our history on the China border. Okay? And we are keeping troops there at a huge cost with great effort. We have increased our infrastructure spending on the border 5 times in this comment. So now tell me who's the defensive, accommodative person. In fact, the question you should ask is who's actually telling the truth, who's depicting things accurately, who's playing footsie with history. I think those are the questions which should be asked.